largest comeback in NFL history. I was there for it. We've recovered. We've celebrated. Let's dive into it. Let's go. Down 33-0 at halftime to come back and win 39-36. Holy shit. I am sure anyone that was watching the game or was at the game like me can relate, but the Minnesota sports fan in me was pretty bubbling up at halftime, depressed. I don't know about you guys. I was not feeling good. I had very little faith. Did you guys hold out? Did you have some faith?
So, well, I made a joke to you because I had actually, the only other game I'd seen at US Bank Stadium was a Colts game where they beat the Vikings, I think 40 something to 0. It was a bad game. And at 33-0 at halftime, I kind of was thinking, I'm like, oh, should I text Cole and be like, it's happening again? It's like we're cursed when we go there. But
the Colts curse.
I don't know. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't lose faith. I thought they were going to come back.
You know, I wasn't too confident they were coming back, but you know, there's always that little glimmer of hope that's like, well, it's only 4 touchdowns, you know, like it could happen. That was definitely the conversation, but there's definitely was not feeling too confident about it. That's for sure.
Right, and I think Patrick Peterson said that too at half. I think he said 5. I don't know if that's what it was or not, but he said at halftime to Kirk, he's like, hey, we just got to go get 5 touchdowns. And Kirk said after the game, I thought he was being sarcastic. So even Kirk maybe had... I don't know. It's quite incredible because, I mean, teams that trailed by 30 points at half were 0-132. So, and that's including all games in the Super Bowl era, playoffs and regular season.
No, I mean, dude, it's an amazing record to have now. I mean, that's seriously nuts. I say that I kept the faith, but yeah, I mean, I had some doubt, obviously. So as anyone did. So yeah, that's crazy. I can't believe as Minnesota Vikings fans now, we own that record of, I mean, we don't own the record. They do.
Right.
Yeah. I feel like we share it.
We're part of it.
Yeah.
We share it. Yeah. And you know how you could tell that all the fans in the stadium were depressed? First of all, definitely some fans left. I can almost guarantee that fans left.
That's what I texted you. I texted you when I saw that they tied it, and I was like, Cole, did you leave already, or are you still there?
Oh my gosh, I don't think I could ever forgive myself. I wouldn't come back on the podcast if I had left. Yeah. A big part of me wanting to stay was just to see Jefferson maybe get the record over Randy Moss. I was like, that would be like maybe they'll at least go for that since they can't get the win and try to get some kind of W out of this. But you know what else? You could tell that everybody was depressed in the stadium. I don't know if you guys saw it on TV, but there were so many paper airplanes being thrown at the game. I'm not joking when I say thousands. There were thousands of paper airplanes being thrown, and once they were thrown from the upper deck, if they didn't make it all the way down, someone else was picking it up and throwing it because there was just nothing better to do. Everyone was so sick of watching the game, tired of booing. Everyone was sitting. No one was even standing when we had the ball. It was just a bunch of people in a stadium playing with paper airplanes at halftime and through most of the third quarter until we finally scored. Crazy. I do think there is actually a video of when they were punting and a paper airplane went right past the feed too, which is pretty crazy.
God, that's got to be so annoying for the players.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's annoying for the fans not scoring touchdowns. So
that is true, and not stopping them, and just
we're not scoring at all.
Yeah. Well, I want to do this a little differently. We've kind of talked about how depressed we were at that point. Let's kind of skip ahead. Let's go. We know we were down 33-0 at half. Everybody knows that. We crawled all the way back. We got within. Actually, we were down 33-0 with 8.5 minutes left in the third quarter. Crazy. Scored a few touchdowns. JJ, Osborn, Thielen climbing all the way back. And we get within 8 points, and now we have the ball again. Now the stadium is standing. Nobody's throwing paper airplanes anymore, first of all. And let's take us into that moment. Dalvin Cook, what did you guys see on that play?
Yeah, he got a little space and showed us what Dalvin can do. I mean, that was a classic. Just give it to your star and let him go to work in space. And I feel like that's where he succeeds the most and kind of thrives. That's where his game kind of suits. So to see him bust off that long one, keep fighting, find his way into the end zone, it was pretty damn exciting.
Yeah, Dalvin, he was he was a huge part of that win. He had an amazing game. He had, 95 yards rushing. He had also
And
95
receiving.
yards receiving. Yeah, he caught all 4 of his targets, one of them for that 64-yard touchdown. I mean, that's what everyone expects out of him and wants out of him. So he's the man.
I mean, last week on the podcast, Josh, you were a little negative against him. You said
He was on
needs
my
to have a
naughty list.
breakout.
He was on my
He
naughty
was.
list last week, and now he's back
Is
on
he
the nice
still?
list. Yeah.
All right, that's
No,
good to hear.
He is,
I mean,
he is at the top of the nice list.
that was a big TD and just absolute determination of him to just plow through guys. The footwork. We talked about it last week that he played in his grandma's backyard, and that's where he had that footwork that could just break people's ankles sometimes. That sure showed on that play multiple times. And the craziest thing about it to me was if you look down the field, Ezra Cleveland, big dude, offensive, Darisaw, Hockenson were 60 yards down the field in front of him blocking. That's some absolute hustle. Cook had a big play, but those guys, you can't do it without them. That's incredible.
No, absolutely not. And that, I feel like that just speaks to the culture that KOC's built with this team first mentality that like you can just really see it. And, the guys play for each other, and it doesn't matter what the score is. We're going to keep clawing our way back in, and plays like that kind of just show that.
Yeah, I mean, after the half, obviously they came out, they weren't discouraged, and they pulled off the biggest, comeback in NFL history. So there's definitely something going on there as far as like the team mentality and everything.
We talked about what we were feeling when we were down 33-0. Now we've just scored. We're within 2 points. There's only 2 minutes, 15 seconds left in the game. Were you confident in getting the 2-point conversion? What were you feeling? Or were you thinking, well, if we miss it, we go for a field goal? Where were you? Where was your headset, Alex?
My Minnesota Vikings fan headset was, we're going to score the touchdown, and there's 0% chance we get the 2-point conversion, because that would just be the most Vikings way to do it. And, I was really excited when we were able to secure it and push the game to OT.
So I would say that this year I don't know what the actual like stats are on how many 2-point conversions have been tried this year and how many have been actually scored, but I feel like it's a lot. I feel like it's not I don't know. I just feel like the offenses have it down now. They have like their plays on the goal line for their 2-point conversions, and they're getting them more than you think. So I thought that they were going to get it. I was more concerned that it was going to come down to a field goal in overtime, and we were going to miss it in classic Vikings fashion, which we were able to avoid, obviously, and I'm sure we'll get to that. But yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And little firsthand knowledge being in that stadium, if there's ever a game that I'm going to be at that's not a playoff game that has a playoff atmosphere, it was when we were going for 2. Because when Cook scored that touchdown, people were literally jumping up and down, falling over the seats because they were like disoriented. It was absolute mayhem, beer being thrown in the air, just chaos. And then by the time we went for 2, they get on the line and hike it, it was dead silence. I mean, if I would have clapped my hands, you would have heard it on the other side of the stadium. It was insane. I've never been in a situation where there's anything like it. Everyone had their like hands on their knees, leaning forward, like in complete stress, trying not to throw up, watching them go for this 2-point conversion. And it felt like Kirk had the ball forever. It felt like he was standing in the pocket, and we're like, throw it! Holy like throw the ball.
They felt that too. Every single one of them in that moment knew that they were like, if we ever need to score a 2-point conversion this season, it is right now. Like we need to get this, it's like
Do you think that's going to help them? I mean, being in that situation, that is a playoff atmosphere. You have those type of situations all the time in playoffs. Is that experience going to carry with them into the playoffs?
I think if sorry. I was going to say just real quick. I think if anything, it might hurt them going into the playoffs, because now teams aren't going to underestimate them going into the second half of games. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, like the Vikings. They're not going to come. Now teams are going to be like, shoot, we gotta We got to play.
I've already sworn like 3 times in this. It makes
okay, yeah. They
it's that kind
teams
of
are going to be like,
today.
man, they have the ability to come back. So we better make sure we're playing all 4 quarters. We're not going to underestimate them.
Right.
Absolutely. And I mean, I just feel like the more close game situations that we can find a way to come out and win, and whatever it may be, coming back from a big deficit or holding on at the end of the game. I feel like all these like super close games at the end of the day are adding to our playoff skill set, because that's what happens in the playoffs. You gotta know how to win those close games, how to secure it out, or come back. And I think the more we can do it in the regular season, the better off and more prepared our guys will be in the postseason.
Yep. And everything was against us in this game. It felt like after halftime, and even in the first half, it just felt like the refs were against us. But before we get to that, let's talk about overtime. Josh, you just mentioned the Vikings have a history of missing kicks. Is that true?
I mean, that's what I've heard. I don't know. I just yeah, no. I honestly, like, I know everybody in there was kind of when Greg Joseph was kicking that. Everyone was thinking the same thing. So, but you know what? He did it, man. He did it.
He did. Alex, how would you have felt if they ended in a tie on a missed kick?
I mean, after being down 33-0 at halftime, like, I feel like I'd be happier with that than a loss, obviously. I'd be like, hey, at least we came back and tied. but
it's also like, oh, we did all that work just to tie. It's like, might as well just take the loss and go home.
And it's one thing to do all that work and come back and tie the Eagles, but to tie the Colts, I mean, at the end of the day, that kind of feels like a loss.
Oh, 100%. Right?
But getting that win was big. And like I mentioned, it just did not feel like it was going to happen. And it wasn't just because we were down 33-0. And I feel like the news media, not the news media, but it sounds very political. I mean, like sports networks, right? And Twitter, everybody, there's not enough talk about how bad the refs were and against the Vikings in this game. They were so many big missed calls, including 2 massive fumbles that were recovered for touchdowns that they pulled back, both by Sullivan too.
I mean, it is that, but it's also the rules too. I mean, yes, the refs missed that the runner wasn't down, but all they can do is give them the ball where it was recovered. It's like
but they didn't even do that the first time. The first time,
I know.
Give us the ball. It's awful.
Yeah, but like, I don't know. It's tough because the refs. I'm sure the refs were like, man, I wish we could have that one back because clearly he wasn't down. But all we can do is give him the ball back where they recovered it. So you can't advance it. So
is there a way that you can fix that, Alex? Like, is that fixable rule?
Well, we've seen recently refs starting to let plays go out a little longer, and if a ball comes out, they'll let them run it back in the end zone because you can always look back and decide whether or not it was a fumble. Whereas, if you call that play dead, it is dead, and that is the end of it. So I feel like, just letting the plays go out longer, letting the guys finish out plays, because the worst that happens is you look at the video and bring it back, and you're taking away opportunities, and those are both game-changing plays. Like, that totally changes the aspect of the game and situation and everything. So definitely something that needs to be looked into.
Yeah, and it happened last week with Jefferson too, when they blew the play dead too early.
It seems to be happening a lot with the Vikings, but like Alex said, I've seen it a lot too, where they don't blow plays dead. When you're like, wait, really? Like that's not a dead ball? The play's not over? And then you're like, oh well, they were just letting it play out just to see because it was close. So
I mean, and another play, I don't know if you guys saw when we punted that ball. I think it was in the end of the fourth quarter, might have been overtime, but that punt, right? And it ended up at the 2-yard line. That should have been placed at the 1-yard line, which would have given us a better chance to get a safety, which would have changed the game at the end of that fourth quarter. And that's a bad call.
Was it just the spot of the ball?
Yeah, they spotted the ball 2 yards out of the end zone when he picked it up on the edge of the line, like inches. It should have been within inches of the line, and they still moved him away from the end zone 2 extra yards. And there's not a lot of talk about that, but that when we were at the stadium, that felt like a big misplay.
Well, right, because then he was able to put his knee down and had room to do it and wasn't.
Exactly. we couldn't go for the Bills tragedy that happened to them.
Yeah, there's been a lot of crazy endings, man. Like this has been it's been a crazy season. It's been a good season to be a Vikings fan.
Well, and this week, specifically around the NFL, there's been some wild endings with the Raiders-Patriots game last night.
Oh, yeah, that Patriots. God.
Oh, God, yeah, you can't even make that up.
So,
what are they doing?
Thank God it didn't affect me in fantasy because I have Stevenson. If that would have somehow been like his fault, and then I ended up losing because I had a tight game and I won. So, thankfully,
wait, was that him who threw the? He
started it.
He started it. He didn't throw that.
He didn't throw that.
I think was it Jacoby? It was 16. Is that Jacoby Myers?
I think it was Jacoby Myers. I believe you're right.
Oh God.
Yeah, some crazy.
I did see that.
I
think they were trying to. I forget the exact situation they were in. I think they were trying to have him go down, but I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking. That was a weird play.
It made no sense. The game was. You should have just gone down, gone to overtime, and dealt with it then. I feel like he was just trying to make a big play and. Yeah, it was bad. But luckily, Vikings didn't do that, and we won, and we didn't do anything too dumb. We did everything perfect. We had to be perfect, and we did it. And they couldn't be good at all, and they weren't. So that was exactly what we needed in that big comeback win. But let's kind of talk about some of the players in the game. Number one to me in the game, the number one star, obviously Kirk was great, JJ was great, Cook was great, but KJ Osborn, man, he was the spark. He was a monster.
Yeah, he had a huge game. I was gonna say, like, if you even just watch the highlights, I mean, he has so many big plays, big catches. He had that huge catch that set up the first touchdown that he scored. I mean, he was targeted just as many times as JJ was. I mean, they had JJ and Thielen pretty well covered, and they just went to their next man. And KJ Osborn, he had a huge game. It was awesome to see. They used him a lot.
Yeah, this game I kind of feels like Osborn's coming out party, kind of putting the league on notice. Like, hey, this guy is legit. You saw, I don't know if you guys saw the video of Kirk post game, did an interview and was talking about Osborn could do that every week if he was the main guy. There's just so many mouths to feed on that offense that they aren't able to consistently get him that many touches a game. And, you know, you watch the guy and you hear that and you're just like, yep, that makes sense. Like, he's a kind of game changer level player, in my opinion, and has really elevated this Vikings offense this year. And this game, we really got to see kind of KJ Osborn at full volume.
Yeah. And going into playoffs, those are the kind of guys you need. You need that big star like a JJ, but you got to have those wide receiver 2, 3, 4 even that are just can step up and do something like this in a game where they're trying to shut down your main guy. That's huge.
Well, they have like 3 wide receiver ones. They have like JJ, who's just out of everyone's league. Yeah. And then it's like JJ's wide receiver, like a million. I don't know. And then there's like Thielen and Osborn. Whatever's above 1. Yeah. And then they have Osborn and Thielen as wide receiver ones. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, surprisingly, too, it did feel like this season they've been targeting KJ Osborn a surprising amount to me even, but he had, in his previous 8 games, he only had 141 yards, and in this game alone, he had 157. Do you think this continues? Is this something they're going to try to keep opening it up, or will they step back to, hey, we're playing our same game we've been playing all year?
I don't think that it's going to be anything continuing on this level. I think we'll continue to see Osborn play a significant role in this offense, but I don't think we're going to be seeing this every week from him. I think it's more going to be situational, and if teams decide they want to leave him single cover or whatever it may be, I feel like that's where we're going to more see these kind of games from him rather than him, demanding a significant target share.
Yeah. And obviously the target share is still going to continue to go to JJ. And he had 12 catches in this game for 123 yards. He came up 9 yards short of Randy Moss's single season record. That was going into halftime. That's all I talked about. I was like, I'm sticking this out because he's going to break that record. It's going to be awesome. That's what they're going to go for. And man, was he close. He's breaking it next week, right? Obviously.
Hopefully. I would hope, yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully he breaks it on the first play. I wouldn't shock me to see him go for it. But what'd you guys think of JJ in this game? Very quiet in the first half, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, he ultimately he ended up having a big game, but I think he did have a little trouble against Stephon Gilmore, and but yeah, he's JJ, so he figured it out, he made it work, and then his touchdown was sick too.
Yeah,
he,
that route was nasty.
Yeah, that was.
He ran the in and out, and then faked the in.
I don't know, like when I saw that like touchdown, it looked like they like smiled at each other for a second after too. Like they were just like, yeah,
gotcha.
You're good at football.
You're good at football, so am I. We're both good at football. It's crazy.
The first play that they matched up against each other right off the bat, I think it was the first play of the game, if not the first drive. He actually literally grabbed the horse's collar, like the actual top of his thing, and ripped JJ to the ground. So it started off of like, all right, he's gonna have some pressure on him this game, and they got pass interference for that, luckily. But still, they were trying to make a statement, I think, right off the bat, but didn't matter. JJ registered his 9th game with 100+ receiving yards, which is the most in the NFL this season, and all the other Vikings have combined for just 6 of those 100-yard games. So he's clearly a wide receiver, or whatever's above 1, right, Josh?
yeah, whatever's above 1.
Yeah. Is he going to break 2K? We know he's going to break Randy Moss's single season record. That's a for sure. Will he break 2K this year?
I mean, how much is he going to be playing is the
right
question.
Yeah. He did almost get hurt too. He left the game hurt.
He came out of the game twice, didn't he?
I'm sorry. I'm having a tough time hearing you both over. I feel like there's a cat meowing in the background somewhere. Is that you, Cole?
That's my cat.
Oh, that's you?
She's trying to get into the room.
That's hilarious. I wouldn't doubt that my cat is trying to do the same thing. I shut her out. Yours is just louder than mine.
She's very loud.
That's hilarious. But what was I saying? Oh, is he going to break 2K? Yeah, you're right. How much is he going to play? Do you guys think? I mean, you cannot let him get injured, right? We talked about it on the podcast last week, and now after a nervousness of him being injured, this week, do you think that amps up that they got to sit him?
I mean, I want to see all of all of their first string players play, but
yeah, I
also don't want any of the starters to be hurt going into playoffs. So it's tough. It's a tough decision.
I don't think I feel like it's too early to full out sit him for the playoffs, but I think there's definitely ways you can limit his action and kind of tone him down a bit. Let Thielen and Hockenson and Osborn take more of the targets maybe going forward. Don't run him on as many routes maybe. I mean, you don't have to fully sit him, but you can kind of take your foot off the gas a bit.
You know what's scary? I was watching that Shaq documentary on, I think it's HBO or something. I don't know, whatever that new Shaq documentary is. Mm-hmm. And when they were going into the playoffs, he was like, I was playing like super easy, like not pushing anything because I didn't want to get injured, and that's when he got injured.
Yeah.
So he took a knee right to the thigh, and like it did like ruptured his muscle or something. So,
right, and
I know, yeah.
Hopefully he doesn't get injured. Maybe what they should do is just send him out there like crazy in the next game, and try to get him as close as possible, so they don't have to be putting him out there as much, and just get him to that 2K, and then reel him in and put him on the bench. Just get him to 2K. That's all I'd love to see it. But don't get injured. And speaking of injuries, don't let Christian Darrisaw get injured. We saw how important he is. Obviously, the first half, let's just cross that out. But the second half, man, when he went down, too, I don't know if you saw, he went down twice. He left the game twice. And luckily on his Twitter, he came out the next day and said it was just cramps, don't worry. But he had 2 concussions in 5 days. So we were all pretty worried. What do you guys think about Darrisaw? Is he as important to the team as Jefferson? Do they sit him? But then you're not protecting Kirk. You can't really let him get hurt.
Yeah.
With him, I was going to say just with him out, I think there was a lot, less of an impact than you would see if like JJ was out, obviously. But, want the whole starting lineup healthy, so.
Right.
Yeah, and he's obviously a key piece to the puzzle. There's no doubt about it. But I feel like, again, you can't really start talking about sitting guys until the last week or two you gotta keep your guys playing, because you also don't want them to kind of lose their touch and get out of rhythm. And let's say you're a team that has a first round bye, you sit in the last 2 weeks. Now your guy hasn't played for 3 weeks, and he has to go into that first week of playoffs ready to go. So, as much as injury is a risk, I feel like you just gotta have your guys out there playing.
Yep.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what Kevin O'Connell does, because we don't know. We don't know what he's going to do. We haven't been in this situation with him yet.
Yeah, you can never tell. Who's not new? Matt Ryan. Oh man, he now holds. Was it the biggest Super Bowl comeback and the biggest regular season or biggest comeback of all time? Both are against him. That is not a good look for Matt Ryan.
Yeah, he's definitely has some weird curse. Yeah, that is. I know you know that he was having flashbacks of that Super Bowl on the sideline.
You have to.
Yeah, 100%.
He allowed 182 yards, or he only got 182 yards, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, but I swear 150 of that was in the first quarter or the first half.
I mean, again, let's talking about Matt Ryan and like just their offense as a whole. I mean, their offense only scored 1 touchdown. I mean, they scored a lot of points, but it was mostly kicks and defense and special teams touchdowns. So I mean, our defense actually did a pretty good job, shutting him down and shutting down their offense. So
yeah, I mean, they did allow 350 yards, but it's better than 400, which they allowed the last 5 games before that. So
that was the benchmark that we were like, they can't go over this, and they didn't.
Yeah.
So.
And they've talked a lot about bend but don't break. Do you think they bent but didn't break, Alex? Or if we lose, are we letting them go?
I mean, holding your quarterback to 182 yards is awesome. I mean, you look to do that every week. If you did that every week, that's considered a success. The rushing game, 171, is quite a bit to allow to a backfield. Definitely was the weak point of our defense this week, which, at least it wasn't the passing game that was killing us this week. There was a lot of big chunk plays in the first half that we were able to limit in the second, which was really good. And definitely a better performance, but still a lot to be seen from this defense.
Well, and there's still a little bit of an asterisk on some of those yardage too, because if you think about it, Matt Ryan, most of those 182 yards were in the first half when they were just climbing the board on us. And coming into the second half, why would they throw the ball? They just want to run that clock. So they rushed a lot. I know Moss, it felt like he had the ball every other play. It was crazy. So thankfully, they just had to kick a lot of field goals and gave us a chance. But they are the opposite of the Vikings. The Vikings continuously come back in the fourth quarter over and over, or in the second half overall. But the Colts have now been outscored in their last 2 games, 72-9 in the second half of their last 2 games. That is awful. I feel like the Vikings have outscored their teams 72-9 in the last 2 halves. I'll look that up.
Probably.
Yeah. And we all know 33-0's biggest comeback ever. Jonathan Taylor, too. That was without Jonathan Taylor. All those rushing yards. He was out early. It was right away in the first quarter.
I was going to say,
the season is what I read.
Yeah, I was going to say they're first of all, like 36 points is like, if you told me someone scored 36 points and didn't score an offense or only scored 1 offensive touchdown, I'd be like, wait, what? How? That's crazy. It's a lot of points for just 1 touchdown. It might have been different if Jonathan Taylor was playing, but they still, Zach Moss is really good too. So they kind of didn't really miss a beat. They still rushed against us pretty well. So,
yep. And 36 points or not, now we won another 1-score game. That's 10 on the season, which ties the 2019 Seahawks and the 78 Houston Oilers for the most in NFL history. We going to break that record? We going to have another 1-score win, you guys think? What do we got coming up?
Honestly, would not be surprised.
We got Giants, Bears, Packers, right? Could happen in any of them.
Giants, Packers, Bears.
Giants, Packers, Bears. Okay, that's the order.
I think, yeah.
I think so. Just an absolute horrific first half. Great second half. We talked about the Vikings defense. What are we missing? Oh, the thing that feels like most people aren't even talking about after this big win, all they're talking about is the comeback. We clinched the division. It's ours. Week 15 feels pretty good.
No one can catch up now. Yeah.
Right. So that guarantees us a home field game, which will be the first time we have a postseason game at home, right? And since the Minneapolis Miracle, 2017.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
God, it's been that long.
It's crazy, right? Time flies. So hopefully we don't have to come down to a Minneapolis Miracle and we can actually win this one at home, and they realized how to do it this time. Do you guys think that we can hold on to the 2 seed in the playoffs with the Eagles clearly looking like they're going to secure that number 1 seed? We just have to fend off the Niners.
Yeah, I feel like we're in a good spot. We don't have that tough of a schedule with only one playoff team we're facing in the Giants. I mean, I don't see why we couldn't.
Josh?
Yeah, I'm just looking up the Eagles' schedule because I just wanted to see like what their schedule looks like. They do got, pretty tough matchup against the Cowboys.
Who do they play?
Cowboys. They play the Cowboys, yeah. And then the Saints.
Because they just have to win
Giants,
one more game, I believe, right, to clinch the 1 seed.
Yeah,
because
I believe they're 13 and 13 and 1, I think so.
Yeah.
Or 13.
So that's probably going to happen.
Yeah. I don't think there's anything that can stop that. Yeah. So,
but I said that at halftime of this game too. So anything can happen. That's what I believe now.
Anything can happen. Yeah.
Well, all right. We got the Giants Christmas Eve, Saturday noon. Who should we watch out for? What do the Giants got that can actually come after the Vikings?
Well, Saquon Barkley's been pretty good this season, and Danny Dimes is turning it on a little bit.
Yeah, definitely got to watch out for Saquon. Really hot start to the season, kind of slowed down a bit. If we can kind of keep him in checks, keep that Danny Dimes run game in checks, I think we'll be in a good position. But I'm most looking forward to, well, I'm hoping that they have new all-white alternate helmets that we've seen other teams in the league start to do the alternate helmets. I'm hoping, praying, that we are getting a clean all-white Vikings helmet. That's my Christmas wish.
They must be. If not, they're going to still have like the logo like in gray or something on it, right? I would think. But they got to be. They're doing a white out, the whole stadium. It's a good call. I bet we see it. We will discuss more about the Giants game in our next podcast. Make sure you subscribe, like this video. If you had any comments below, we'll discuss it in the next video. Follow us on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, anywhere else you can find Hot Dish Sports, and Skol Vikes.
Yeah. Message Skol Cole Vikes. If you want one of those t-shirts.
Yeah. Oh, we didn't even talk about my t-shirt.
Skol Vikes.